This is the Fab 4 video tutorial part 2. In the last tutorial I showed you around the interface, so let's continue by checking out some drum sounds. This is the year drums I loaded previously, and you can see the available samples are shown by these white keys. Each drum is also listed here in the Articulations window, so you can easily adjust the volume of each one as needed. To make things as realistic as possible, each drum has up to 16 layers which switch samples as you hit the keys harder or softer. And this is especially effective on the cymbals. The other thing that makes for realistic drum samples is having alternate hits on the same drum. For example, in addition to all the velocity switching, the snare and the toms both have left-hand and right-hand hits on separate keys. You can hear the difference when I repeatedly play the floor tom, first just on one key, and then with the left-hand and right-hand keys. Similarly, the hi-hat automatically alternates between different samples on the same key. Also, as with the other kits, there's a variety of cymbals and drums played in different styles, and all this adds a lot of realism and helps avoid that typical sampled sound. What you're hearing is the unprocessed sound, but as with any instrument, you'll probably want to add some reverb, and Fab 4 comes with a range of fantastic convolution reverbs made exclusively for the Play libraries. And there are 9 complete kits in this collection, as well as some additional modulated cymbals. Okay, so let's have a listen to some bass. This is a 1964 Rickenbacker 4001S. Here again, the white keys show the playable range, and these blue ones are the key switches. You use these to switch between the articulations you see listed here. So, for example, this articulation is the sustain on key C5. And notice this RR, it stands for round robin. And everywhere you see that, it means that the articulation alternates between different takes on the same note. Again, helping avoid that sampled sound, and of course it's got velocity switching as well. If I choose key C#5, we can play the sustain and legato articulation. This is a special feature of Play, and you'll find it in many of the library's instruments. It's like having 2 articulations in one. The software senses when you play notes in a legato style and automatically switches from the main sample with a full attack to a legato sample. For comparison, this is the regular C5 sustain. You can hear those fast notes don't sound quite right with the full attack on every note, but Play can automatically choose the legato samples for the correct notes. This is the same MIDI playing the C#5 legato. And when you combine that feature with all the other articulations here, staccato, slides up and down, harmonics, and even string scrape effects, you get a very versatile and authentic instrument. So let's have a listen to some guitars. I'll load up the I'm a Blackbird guitar. And this is a 1966 Martin D28 acoustic. Again, you can see the blue key switches and the white playable range, and here there are all sorts of interesting articulations: fingered, picked, with and without legato, slides, and a selection of chords and scrapes. Here's what the articulation C0 fingered sounds like. And don't forget you can get additional sounds by playing with the effects and saving that as a new instrument. For example, let's try some ADT. It still sounds a little close to me, so this is where I would use some delay. There's often delay used in a mix even if you can't specifically hear it, and I think it'll need some reverb as well. And this is a good sound to show what we can do with the envelope. I'll move the attack up to about 1200 milliseconds and pull down the decay and sustain a bit. Okay, so let's move on to some electric guitars, and I'll load up the I Want guitar. And this is a layered instrument. There's two different guitars going through two different amps, so you can either choose one or the other, or mix them both together and adjust the balance. And if we go back to the browser, you can see there's lots of great stuff here. 21 uniquely different guitars. Acoustic, electric, lead, rhythm, clean and distorted, including sounds that could only be created in specific ways. For example, connecting two EMI Red 47 preamps together to get this. There's sustain and legato for lead work. Rhythm guitar, and here you can see I'll be switching in real time between three articulations. That's the ones on D sharp 0, E0 and F0. And what you can't see is that I'm also using the mod wheel to switch between the long and short samples. This helps make things sound as authentic as possible. Alright, let's have a listen to something else. Here's another completely unique sound. So there's a lot of choice here. I'll move on to keyboards in the next part. This is the end of part 2.